Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is our Wednesday live stream. We've got a great show for you today. I think you're really going to enjoy this, especially our business community. Lots of great information. I feel like this is my second office, as this is the second week in a row that Region 9 has been kind enough to let me use their conference room to host our live stream here, since I have several appointments here in Durango today. So thanks so much to Region 9. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with Region 9, give me a call and I'm happy to talk to you about the organization. But the person that is on the show with us today is Heather Otter, who is, I just think Heather is a great program manager for actually you're the best juggler I know, Heather, with all of the programs that Region 9 has going on. So first, before we talk about the report that you're going to talk about today, can you just give us a real quick kind of 30,000 view of Region 9 and their impact here in Southwest Colorado?
Oh, you bet. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here today. Thanks for the invitation, Mary Jo. I, as Mary Jo mentioned, work with Region 9 Economic Development District. So our state is divided up into a handful of economic development and planning districts, and we each cover a certain geography. So Region 9 is the 5 counties across Southwest Colorado, and that includes the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe and the Southern Ute Indian Tribe. So we're here to provide programs, services, and funding for economic and community development. And we are that liaison between our federal and state partners for program services and funding, and our local level economic development groups, and our local governments, and our businesses. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, there are so many things going on. And we're pleased that you're here with us to talk about one of the reports that comes out, and take it away. I'm not sure. We talked about it this morning. I'm not sure that it's all good news, but let's roll with it.
Well, I like to say that data is neither good nor bad necessarily, but it's a tool that we can use to make good decisions or better decisions, sometimes hard decisions. And so what Mary Jo is referring to is called the Livable Wages Report. And this is something that Region 9 has been updating and looking at for a long time, since 1999. And so every 2 years, we update the report, which is available on our website. And I'll mention this a couple times. It's at www.region9edd.org. And then we have a data tab, which will take you to all of our Region 9 reports. So anyway, this data set allows us to compare the costs for different household configurations in our area, specific to our area, and what we call a self-sufficiency budget. And I'll get into that in a minute. And we compare it to, we compare those costs to our wages in our area. So when we look at what it costs a household of, say, a single individual, or maybe a single individual who has a child, or the other household configuration we look at is 2 working adults with 2 children, and that is a preschooler and a school-age child. So that's, now there are many configurations that can be analyzed. We focus on those 3 for this particular report. But before I dive into that too much, I did want to talk a little bit about different wage thresholds, because for the audience here, you've probably heard of some different terms that are used. I'm going to be talking about livable wages, but the point behind this data that I like to remind everybody is there are people and families behind these numbers. And in our communities, there are lots of different wage thresholds that our families, friends, and acquaintances and coworkers live within. So there's the poverty wage, which typically poverty wages are ones that keep people in a state of stress, not able to meet basic needs, typically without some support or subsidies through federal or state programs. Then we have, you may have heard of minimum wage, which is of course mandated by federal and state law, and those can provide a baseline, may or may not cover essential needs like housing, healthcare, and food, transportation. And then livable wage. Livable wage is where things start to shift for individuals and families. Livable wage is what we mean when we're talking about self-sufficiency. So you don't have a dependence on federal and state programs to meet your basic needs. And then what we all aspire to is a thriving wage. So a thriving wage is one where people can meet all of their basic needs, and they have income that will, or wages that will allow them to potentially pursue education, save money for their future, take those vacations, whatever the case may be. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there. Another thing is that there are different calculators for looking at wage thresholds. And so we use a tool that is developed out of the University of Washington School for Social Work. And it's important because we've used that same tool for year over year. We have also used the MIT Livable Wage Calculator. So that's a common one, and I mention it because people may have heard of that tool as well. So again, how do we calculate and where do we get the information to put these comparisons together?
Okay.
So I'll stop.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into some numbers.
Okay. So, and the numbers say.
And the numbers say. All right. So when we look at Archuleta County and Pagosa Springs, they are the most expensive county and town across our 5-county region. And it's been that way for the last 2 updates of our report. La Plata County and Archuleta County, they kind of ping pong back and forth to get that designation. Not necessarily the designation that either of these counties want. However, I want to go back to something that I said earlier, which is remember that data is neither good nor bad. It's simply a tool to look at how we can make decisions. So let me just pull up let me pull up Archuleta County here and give you a few numbers behind that. So when we are talking about, again, livable wage, self-sufficiency, according to our report, if we had a household of one, an individual, that individual would need to make a $22 hourly wage in order to support themselves and meet their basic essential needs. If you had an individual, single parent home, that individual would need to make about $39 per hour to meet essential needs for themselves and the child. And then if you had your household configured where you had working adults, 2 adults and a preschooler and a school-age child, those working adults, both working adults, would need to be making $25 an hour, or something that would bring both of those working adults to that, $50 range. So that breaks out to an annual wage of about $105,000, almost $106,000 for a family of 4 to secure a livable wage in Pagosa and Archuleta County. Now, with that said, we have a lot of families across the region that are 2 working people in the household, if it's that configuration. So that sounds like a lot of money, and it is if you have a 1 earner household. It's going to be harder, and may have to make some tough decisions. That's where a livable wage gets difficult, is if that if those wages aren't available, or, but if you have two earners in the household, it becomes somewhat easier. Now, it may come as no surprise that what are driving the costs, and what are the costs that are part of this calculation? So again, essentials. So essentials are housing, childcare, utilities, healthcare costs, transportation, and again, basic needs.
Food.
No surprise that the main factors that are driving the costs up, and this is not just in Archuleta or Pagosa, this is across our region, is, anybody want to guess? Yeah. So
Housing.
we've got housing, and we have childcare.
Sure.
So for families that need childcare, it's housing and childcare that are driving up costs for individuals and families.
Well, Heather, are you finding that in the report, does it break it down into home ownership versus rental?
That's a great question. This does not, and most of your wage calculators, all of them actually, I believe that I'm aware of and that we've used, they use rental rates.
Okay.
So that's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. So we do break it down in the report, and the housing costs that you see are based on either a 1-bedroom rental or a 2-bedroom rental for the housing configurations that we look at. And this is an important part. Speaking of housing, what is unique about Region 9's report is that while we use the wage calculation tools to collect a lot of our data, we customize housing, childcare, and transportation specific to this region when we can. So if rates for rentals are not available through, and we do everything from talking to property managers, we look at listings from the online listings such as Zillow, and we compile all that. If those aren't available, which sometimes that's not possible in our much smaller communities, we use fair market rates. And we have a definition of that in the report.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, you said it's something, it's not good or bad. It's just a tool. What do you see that for Archuleta County? As you mentioned, this is the second straight report that Archuleta County and Pagosa Springs has been the most expensive community to live in Southwest Colorado. From my review of the report, obviously housing rates are driving a lot of that. They seem to be over fair market value. Is that something, that obviously could be adjusted, but do you see anything else that perhaps our community can use as a tool?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about jobs and the different job sectors or the industries that are in Archuleta County. The reason I bring this up is it's important to know that we can look at the wage and the wage information, which we just talked about, but who's providing those wages and how many jobs make up, those different that are encompassed in those industries that are in your particular area, and do those jobs pay a low, medium, or high wage? So to answer your question directly, one of the things that we work on in economic development is, trying to diversify a bit so that we don't have all of our jobs coming from one or two employers. Now, in smaller communities like ours, that's a little harder. But it's also what makes us unique. So we have to kind of look at what are our assets, and then, how might we diversify? So let me break down a couple of those numbers for you. In Archuleta County, the largest number of jobs come from some of the service sectors, like accommodation and food services, probably not a surprise, construction, retail, and local government. And that's not so different than your neighboring communities in other counties. Now, the accommodation and food services, it does typically pay in that lower range of wages. So let's just pretend we could take all the jobs across all your industries in Archuleta County. The average annual wage across all of your jobs is about $45,000 a year. Okay, that's the average. Now, the accommodation and food services, retail tends to fall in what we would call a lower wage category. However, I do want to make a point that comes up quite a bit. Tourism. It is a base industry here in Region 9 counties, and yours is no stranger to tourism.
No.
We depend on it, and we promote it, and we thrive when we have healthy, happy tourists that interact with our communities, and that we can sustain that. And a lot of times people confuse tourism with low-paying jobs. Not the case necessarily. Some, yes, but tourism in and of itself, it cross-cuts many industries, from some that are quite high-paying with certain professional services, even some construction jobs, and it also cross-cuts things like retail, accommodation, and food services.
Yeah. Heather, how can anybody in the business industry use this report? What is there a way that they can use this to their benefit or to help them in their business?
Yeah, that's another really good question. And there are a couple ways that this can be used. The first and easiest and most basic is just to become aware of a livable wage number for your area. It starts with just that, getting familiar, looking at these reports. The next way that it can be used is if you are thinking about recruiting employees or talking with employees about wages. This can help you to see where you're at, sort of set a baseline for yourself. Maybe you're not paying what is, designated as a living wage for your community. But if it's something that your business aspires to, there are ways to take the next steps through business planning, succession planning, all those kinds of things that this can be used for. And then finally, if you are paying a living wage, I think it's really something to market and promote, because if you're looking at and not only for your existing employees, but also for potential employees or people that are there, important to note that you pay a livable wage for your area.
Sure. Well, Heather, thank you so much. Is there anything about the report or Region 9 that you want to mention before we shift to the rest of our show?
Just that please visit the website, go to the data tab, and the reports will be listed. Region 9 reports are listed on that data tab. We have a wonderful data dashboard also under data that gives you other demographics and socioeconomic data about the region and your community. And then if you'd like to chat more or go into more detail, or if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, my name is Heather, and you can reach me at heather@region9edd.org. That's my email. And again, that's heather@region9edd.org.
Okay. Well, thank you. I just hope everybody, I love data. And so I just hope everybody, and again, this is an important tool, as you said, for our communities. And we really thank you and Region 9 for producing this and coming on our show today to talk about that livable wage report.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Jo.
All right. Okay, folks, thank you. I'm going to talk about a few things that before we go off, we ran a little over today, but again, this is a really critical report that we all wait for in the business industry. But we do have a business survey that is coming up on its end. I know everybody goes, I hate surveys, but could you just take a couple minutes and fill ours out? We would really be grateful to you for doing that. It'll take you just a couple of minutes. If you jump on our website, visit Pagosa, I'm sorry, not visit Pagosa, pagosachamber.com. It is right on our homepage. And just click on the survey and fill that out. It will really help us help you with programs and projects and ways to communicate with you or things that we do or shouldn't be doing anymore. The survey ends at the end of the week, so if you could just take a few minutes to fill that out, we would greatly appreciate it. The other thing is this month, due to all the spring breaks, and Pagosa's spring break is at the end of the month, so we have moved our business happy hour up 1 week. It is next week, March 21st, and we will be at the Emerald Fox, and you don't want to miss it because Bianca has some fabulous items at her store, as well as Sierra Paint Protection, and Tim will be there as well. And we think we're going to have a sample of a car there as well, that and you get to see their work. So it's right before spring break. Everybody kind of blows out of town, but please try and be there for that. It's going to be lots of fun. They always do a great job. And then we will be having both the Chamber of Commerce and the Main Street program are collaborating on getting our businesses together to talk about some programs that might be, or events that we might be able to implement during the construction projects. So you will be getting another survey, very quick, about 4 questions that will help us create a base and an outline for our meetings. The 2 meetings will be on March 31st at 5:30 in the evening, and then on April 1st at 11:30 through the lunch hour. Both of those will have some snacks and beverages. The lunch one is a brown bag, bring your own. But we really want to try and get some programs and projects off the ground through this construction project. Now, remember that starting March 28th, every Friday at 11 o'clock, we will be doing Friday Facts with CDOT. And that's going to start after the construction project begins on March 24th. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be talking about weekly updates, where we are with the project, setbacks, what blocks we're working on. We're going to be talking about any financial assistance or guidelines, all sorts of things, and the links that you'll need. So we will also be creating a landing page on our website. So lots coming that we will be providing for our business community for this reconstruction project. So main source, just bookmark the Chamber's website, our homepage. There's so much going on there, and it's quick and easy and right at your fingertips. That's it for me today. We are out of time. So thank you all for joining us. Please do give Region 9 a call if you have any questions about the Livable Wage Report, or visit their website to find out more, or give us a call and I'll be happy to talk to you about it as well. Thank you all for joining us today. Enjoy the spring breakers that are here. It looks like we might have a little snow on the way, so get out there and do that snow dance. Thank you, everybody. Please join us again next week.